Little Boys Go to Heaven, Part 6 of 25, Child of God. September 1956, East Texas. Found myself knees with my head bowed, tears streaming down my face. I could not rein in my thoughts. Their intent to run amok was clear. All I could do was follow them whichever direction they chose to lead. To my knees was where they led. There is a small graveyard on her family's land. I went there to pay my respects, to tell her goodbye. There was no headstone with her name on it. I read every headstone there 3 or 4 times. It occurred to me that the name I knew her by, Angie, could have been a nickname or middle name, and her headstone might have carried her Christian name. But the dates were all wrong. A headstone had not been placed in the cemetery in more than 12 years, but I knew she had to be there somewhere. I was near hysteria and I broke down. I was not thinking clearly. I knelt until I found my composure, relearned how to stand and walk, realized what I had to do. I went to the colored mortician and asked about her grave. Miss Angie Summers, could you please tell me where she is buried? I went to the cemetery on her family's land, and there is no headstone with her name on it. He gave a surprised look. He might have thought to ask why a white man was asking about the grave of a young colored woman, but he asked no questions. Instead, he told me things he wanted me to know. All she left behind was a son who didn't have a dime to his name. It was me who paid the bill for putting her in the ground. I resisted the urge to tell him to answer the question I had asked and not offer answers to questions he asked himself. It was me who made all the arrangements for her funeral. I got the preacher to speak, and I had my diggers dig free of charge. There wasn't no church funeral. No one in the church took no notice of her passing, and the boy didn't have no understanding of how to send a person off to the hereafter. She was a young woman. She should have been remembered by the congregation, but her passing and her funeral didn't even get no mention in the preacher Sunday's comments. I remembered her when the boy told me her name, but I'm not sure I ever saw the boy before. I'm not sure if I even knew he existed. And I recognized her when I saw her through. Though I hadn't seen her in years, she looked different. She was still recognizable to me. Normally, the church will help to pay the cost of burying anyone whose family can't afford to pay me. But like I said, they didn't even take no notice of her passing. The boy told me not to worry about no headstone. I would have thrown a little something up just to mark her grave. That would have been the Christian thing to do. But he said he would come back when he was able, put a marker on her grave. He said until he said until then her grave would go unmarked. He said no one other than him would ever come to look for her grave, and he'd never forget it, where she rested. He looked at me curiously when I told him, please prepare a headstone and send me the bill. Also send me the bill for the cost of her burial. It brought a slight smile to his face. I always thought it was common knowledge about the boy, his mother, and me. I could not tell if the mortician's pretend ignorance of our lives was out of respect for us or was just to amuse himself. I did not care. Please have the headstone in place within a couple of days. He nodded his head. Could you tell me, please, where she is buried? She's in the spot next to her grandma, he said. Christina Summers. I knew her grandmother's name. I nodded my head. Christina Summers. Pup spoke often of her. Grandma Christina, he referred to her. She was his great grandmother, and he never met Christina. She died a few months before he was born, but his mother spoke of her often to him, and he spoke often of her to me. I never met her, but I knew her name. I paid for Christina's headstone and called it a birthday present for Angie. Angie cried when she told me of her grandmother's burial and her inability to mark her grave. I didn't know what to call it other than a birthday present for Angie. I did not know the woman, but it meant so much to Angie. Melancholic gift made her happy when I showed it to her after it was in place. Christina died shortly after Angie and I met. late spring of 41. Christina's grave had a simple headstone that gave only her name, birth date, and death date. I did not know what else to put on it. August 1, 1885, and July 1, 1941, dates I had gotten from the Bible. She left Angie. She died a month shy of her 56th birthday. Before her death, I had gotten the impression that she was much older. To a 17-year-old girl whose mother had passed at an even younger age than 56, that might seem old. It was the way Angie talked about her. She's been worn down by life, the way old folks get worn down. She always had to squint to force her eyes to see that where they could see. Then squinting came to be of no use. It's frightening at first to be around a person who can't see past the nose on their face, but I got used to it. So did she. I'd expected Christina to be in her 80s or so. My attention turned from the headstone of Christina's grave to the sunken lot beside. The grass had been relaid and weeds had begun to fight for space. There were no flowers. It had been 2 months since Angie passed. I had not known. The boy did not see cause to tell me she had died. I had not seen her or the boy in 2 years. I sent money regularly to her through the preacher at the colored church. I tried. I visited him regularly before the boy's birth and continued through his childhood and early teens. But she asked me to stop visiting her when she felt ill. That was 2 years ago. I could tell she was ill before she asked me to let them alone. When she demanded I stop coming by, I finally realized how sick she really was. Sick with her illness, sick of life, or sick of me. One of those, maybe all of those. Reverend Jenkins began the last of his monthly visits with me with the news she had passed and was at rest. I offered him the customary glass of lemonade that we shared. We had become friends of a sort. At least I considered him my friend. I reached out the envelope with money for Angie inside it, and he shook his head and said, "She won't need it now. Take it for your church, Reverend. I know why you waited 2 months to tell me, but you should not have waited. I would have let them alone. I would not have tried to force my unwanted presence on them again. I have been waiting for 2 years to hear word of her passing. What is another 2 months, I guess? Still, you should have told me, Reverend. I just told you. Please do not fault me for this timing. 2 months or 2 minutes would not have made any difference. I did not know until now. The boy did not tell anyone other than the undertaker. The undertaker finally told me in passing. Actually, he began by telling me about the cost of him burying Angie. I have not spoken to the boy about his mother's passing. The undertaker made it clear to me that the boy did not want to be bothered about it. There's little sadder than a person grieving alone, but that seems to be the boy's choice. What do you know of us? I know enough. Your suffering can end. You can bury your shame. You can forgive yourself and beg forgiveness of those you might have wronged, but you have to act. You have to pray. You have to beg. I nodded. I have acted. I have prayed. I have begged, and you see the sorry state I am in. You do not understand, but if you will listen, if you will think, if you can open your heart and your mind, you can come to understand. Thank you, Reverend, for everything. I am forever in your debt. He shook his head. You only owe yourself and God. Repay your debts to both. As a man, Reverend, what do you think? I'm sorry about her life. She deserves better than me. Her problems began before you. I'm not sure you are the source of her major problems. The major source? Her daddy. Her mother died and she had to care for her grandmother at an early age and then a baby. But you know all this. Why do you need to ask me? Her daddy abandoned her and her mother. He was the first man to abandon her. I was the second. Did you abandon her? I never stopped caring for her. That's not much, but it's something. I could not have done more than I did. You understand what I mean? Of course I understand. I've been black for a number of years. I know what it means. I am sorry. Sorry for me? I would take my life over yours any day if you will forgive me for saying I loved her. What does that help? It does not help. It makes things worse. He nodded. Still, Reverend, I should have been told. He nodded. Not by me, though. No, it's not your purpose to run messages. Joey should have told me. You understand why I've asked you to meet me here for 2 years. You understand why I asked you to take money to them. I would be discreet. I did not care about discretion. I thought I could see in your demeanor, your posture, how they were doing. I knew last month I could see it in your demeanor that she was not well. You did not tell me in words. That was your right. You're not obliged to tell me anything. Joey should have told me. He should, so he could ensure his mother had a proper burial. He should have demonstrated some sort of affection for me, but he feels none. But she did when you still going to see Joey to check on him. He nodded. But there was something in his manner, something in the way he looked at me in the eye. He told me 2 months ago, only recently, though only recently in words. Are you still Methodist? Methodist? You told me once you belonged to the Methodist Church. Yes, I am still Methodist of a sort. You should talk with your minister. I am talking with you. You are not a part of my congregation. You only tend to sheep that are part of your flock. I tend to those who are in need. I am in need. I have not spoken with the good reverend since. Your own self is all you have. Once you have lost yourself, you have lost everything. I have lost everything. My life is empty. I long to have someone to feel a part of it. For many years, I wished it could be her, but I knew it could never be her. I held on to memories that never existed, memories that were but wishes. We might have been, I told myself, what I knew we could never be. We had much when we had nothing, and I am alone. I thought I would have known when she passed. I thought she would have come to me somehow and told me goodbye, or maybe just come to me and tell me to go to hell. She did not. I could not feel her presence at her grave, at the shack where she lived. I could not feel her presence anywhere. I am alone. Her grave is now marked. Angie Summers, devoted mother, child of God. That's it.